Here's your expanded 1500-word article. What your favorite Do Era says about you as a fan. There is something deeply personal about the moment a fan decides which version of an artist lives rent-free in their heart. For lovers of Do Kyungsoo, the man the world knows as Do of EXO, that choice is never simple, because every chapter of his career carries its own emotional weight, its own sonic fingerprint, and its own quietly devastating power. The era you keep returning to is not just a preference. It is a mirror. It reflects who you are, what you need from music, and the kind of fan you have always been. The EXO Mama Era 2012. The original believer. If the Mama Era is your era, you were paying attention before paying attention was easy. Back in 2012, a young Do Kyungsoo stepped onto the stage as part of a 12-member group with an ambitious mythology, an experimental sound, and an aesthetic that felt genuinely unlike anything Korean pop had attempted at that scale. You did not just hear his voice in What Is Love, or Machine, you felt the weight of it, that dark, rounded baritone sitting beneath layers of electronic production like something ancient and unshakable. Fans of this era tend to be the archivists. You saved fancams when the resolution was questionable and the lighting was worse. You know the original lineup, the subunit structures, the pre-debut content. You have a deep reverence for beginnings, and you understand that greatness does not always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it arrives as a 19-year-old standing at a microphone, singing with a conviction that makes everyone in the room go quiet. You are patient. You are loyal. And you have never once taken Do Kyungsoo for granted. The EXO and Growl Era 2013. The peak performance devotee. This was the moment EXO became a phenomenon, and you were there for every frame of it. Growl is one of the most precisely executed performances in K-pop history, a single-take choreography video that showed the world exactly what this group could do when every member was locked in. And Do, in the middle of all that synchronized chaos, delivered his lines with a smoothness that felt effortless even when it clearly was not. Fans who claim this is their era are drawn to excellence in craft. You are not interested in the idea of talent, you want to see it demonstrated, repeatedly, under pressure, in real time. You appreciate group dynamics and the chemistry that forms between people who have trained together and built something real. You probably rewatch performance videos more than you listen to studio recordings, because for you, the energy in the room is part of the art. You also have strong opinions about vocal line rankings, and those opinions are correct. The Love Me Right and Lucky One Era 2015-2016. The aesthetic romantic. Something shifted in EXO's visual language during this period, and if this is your era, you noticed immediately. The soft pastels of Love Me Right, the cinematic underwater dreamscape of Lucky One, these were not just music videos. They were moods. And Do in this era carried a particular kind of quiet warmth, a gentleness that balanced the group's more intense sonic experiments. Fans of this era tend to be deeply aesthetic in how they engage with content. Your Pinterest boards are curated. Your screenshot folders are organized by color palette. You find meaning in the visual details that others scroll past, and you have probably made at least one edit set to a Do ballad that made other fans cry in the comments. You love softly and consistently, and you believe beauty is a form of sincerity. The Universe and Love Shot Era 2017-2018. The drama enthusiast. This was Do leaning into theatricality, and you loved every second of it. The Coco Bop energy, the bold styling of Power, the brooding intensity of Love Shot. This period of EXO's discography was maximalist in the best possible way, and Do Kyungsoo showed a range that moved from playful to magnetic without skipping a beat. If this is your era, you have a flair for the dramatic yourself. You appreciate when an artist commits fully to a concept, when there is no half measure, no hedging, just total conviction in whatever world the song has created. You probably have strong feelings about which Do acting role best captures this same energy, and the answer, in your mind, is obvious. You also introduced at least 3 people to EXO during this era and feel a quiet sense of responsibility for their emotional well-being ever since. The Empathy Era, Rose, and the solo debut 2021. The Deep Feeler. When Do released his first solo album following his mandatory military service, the response from fans was something close to collective exhale. Rose, in particular, understated, aching, vocally precise in a way that only years of artistic growth can produce, felt like a letter. Not a performance. A letter. Fans who claim the Empathy Era as their defining Do moment are not afraid of their own emotions. You listen to this album alone, probably at night, probably more than once in a single sitting. You know the B tracks as well as the title track. You have recommended It's Love to people going through breakups, career crises, and existential uncertainty with equal confidence, because you know the song works for all three. You believe music's highest purpose is connection, not spectacle, not virality, but the feeling that someone has understood something true about human experience and managed to sing it back to you. Dio in this era did exactly that, and you have never fully recovered. The Blossom Era, Mars, and the Growing Independence 2023-2024, the proud witness. The Blossom Era marked a new phase, Dio operating with greater creative agency, stepping into his identity as a solo artist with increasing confidence and intention. Mars was different in texture and tone from what came before, and that difference was the point. This was an artist in conversation with his own evolution, willing to take up more space, willing to be seen in new ways. Fans of this era are not threatened by change. You celebrate growth as a form of loyalty rather than a departure from it. You understand that the artist you fell in love with was always moving toward this version of himself, and watching that arrival feels like a privilege rather than a disruption. You cheer loudly. You stream consistently. You defend his artistic choices in comment sections with the calm authority of someone who has done their research, because you have. The Bliss Era 2025, the long distance believer. If your era is the most recent chapter, the Bliss Album, the 2025 material, the version of Do Kyungsoo who has arrived at a place of artistic fullness and emotional clarity, then you represent something essential about what long-term fandom looks like at its best. You were not just here for a moment. You were here for the whole journey. You watched him grow from a teenager with an extraordinary voice into a complete artist, a vocalist, an actor, a person who approaches his craft with the kind of quiet seriousness that can only come from genuinely loving what you do. Fans of this era carry the whole archive in their hearts. Every era lives inside this one for you, because you never let any of them go. You are not chasing a throwback. You are living in the proof that the artist you believed in became exactly who you always knew he could be. That kind of faith is rare. And Do Kyungsoo, across every era, has earned every single part of it. Every era of Dio's career is a different frequency, and the one that reaches you most deeply says something true about the listener you are and the fan you have chosen to be. There is no wrong answer here, only the honest one. And in the end, the most telling thing about any Dio fan is not which era they claim. It is the fact that they stayed, they listened closely, and they recognized something extraordinary when it was standing right in front of them.